Servus and welcome to our Neco Community Conference in the third quarter of 2023. Our agenda for today, as usual, we're going to talk a bit about the last quarter, about the quarterly report, and then I'm going to go into more details about the roadmap. And at the end of the session, we have the time for everyone to ask questions and hopefully for me to find answers. So I'm going to share my presentation. Give me a bit. Okay. So the quote I've chosen for today is this one from Henry Paulson, who said that regulation needs to catch up with innovation. And I want to relate this to the current situation we're facing in the crypto market. So the crypto industry started pretty much almost 15 years ago in 2009 with Bitcoin. But for the first 10 years, there was pretty much no regulation. It was a time of almost Wild West where everything was possible. But there were also some challenges. So obviously there was a lot of businesses going on that were not so trustworthy. And we had a lot of scams and fraud. And on the other side, there was a lot of legal uncertainty, especially for us, as we were expecting nations or governments to put in regulations, but we didn't know what was coming. So as Neco started in 2018, we started in a phase where there was no regulation. And we were looking at countries who were the first pioneers in introducing crypto regulation, like Malta and Switzerland. And then the second phase, after 10 years of no regulation, the second phase, also quite typical, is a phase of, I call it regulatory patchwork, where countries introduce regulation, but they're not harmonized. They're all different. They don't fit to each other. Some countries even completely prohibited crypto. So this is a phase that's quite difficult for a business to start in, because it's hard to build a global business when every country has different regulations. And in our example, we looked at the different countries and we always got different responses of how the Neco token would be classified, either as a payment token or as a security token or as a virtual token. So it's quite hard to set up a business when it's, it depends on country to country how it's been regulated. And so the next phase is called standardization. And luckily, that's what's currently happening. This is probably the major milestone that happened in the last quarter. The European Union introduced a new harmonized crypto regulation. There's markets in crypto regulation, which was just published in the last month in June. And it was a major act because it's the first harmonized regulation in the European Union. It took 3 years of development, so not the fastest, and it will come into force in January 2025, because there's now an 18-month period for this law to become effective in all the member countries. This regulation, as I said, is a milestone for us and something that really made me happy, because finally we have a solid legal basis on which we can start to obtain the license, and which is what we're currently doing. We will be considered an asset reference token for those who are interested in the details. However, what's important to understand is that even though it took 3 years for this regulation to come in place, some people always say it's already outdated because certain areas like NFTs and decentralized finance are not covered currently. So it's going to be an update. So as I said, this was one of the major things happening in the last quarter. Now I'm going to go into the numbers. I'm going to talk about our quarterly report, which has recently been published. You can find it on our website and read the details. I'm just going to explain kind of the overview. Dashboard is the chart with the key performance indicators of Neco. Currently, our price is at €1.07. So we broke the €1 mark in the last quarter, a plus of nearly 18%. Price potential is at €1.60 roughly. Our earnings over the last 12 months, 65%. And we currently, at this point of time, we had a reserve rate of 15%. At the moment, we are around 18% of reserve rate, so another increase. So in general, numbers are looking good. And that's why we're expecting the Neco price to increase once again tomorrow after the completion of the Collexa referendum. When you look at the triple bottom line, there's one thing I want to explain here. Triple bottom line means, people, planet, profit. At the moment, the blue bar profit is the majority of our triple bottom line, and the component for people has become smaller and smaller. This is not because we are giving out, we have reduced the universal basic income, but simply because most of our universal basic income recipients now haven't used the UBI yet. So pretty much the UBI accounts are full and they don't receive any more UBI. So this is why this amount has been, the people amount has been decreasing quarter by quarter. A similar side with the planet. So we are working with, our partner, Fair Ventures, who currently also have limited capacity in offsetting carbon emissions. So that's why we decided to not use the full budget available, but only what, a number that makes sense. That's why also the planetary component is smaller. But once we go public pretty soon, then these numbers will again go up. Token performance since 2020, the chart has been going up recently. If you look, one thing that I want to point out on this chart is the different values of the Neco. When we talk about the Neco value, the blue line, so this is the price of the token at the moment, €1.07. This gray line below is the value, that's the reserve value, which means how much backing does each Neco token have in our reserve. So you see this has gone up too. Is a requirement for the price to go up, is also the reserves to go up. So this is the lower part, let's say the minimum price, this is the current price, and then the red line is what we call the price potential. This is the maximum price that the Neco could have per token at the minimum reserve rate of 10%. Right. So what you see here is the minimum and the maximum where we currently are. And below our chart in absolute numbers, that this is the reserve in absolute numbers, which is more than €500,000 right now. And this line here is reserve rate, which is the ratio between Neco money supply and the reserve. In the second quarter, we introduced a new chart, this bubble chart that shows Neco's position in the market and where we are by measuring three key performance indicators of a currency, which means profitability, stability, and security. So the profitability is measured in how much profit did the currency generate over the last 12 months. And you see there's many of the cryptocurrencies have currently come in this quarter back into the profitable zone. They were in the negative over the last year due to the crash in 2022, but they're now being positive again. Fiat currencies usually are not profitable. They stay pretty much the same in value. Security is measured in the maximum loss that a token has had since 2020. We're in a unique position that we never had any loss, so a security of 100%. Whereas fiat is, quite secure, but still there were losses. Euro has, last year dipped dramatically after the war started. And in general, most cryptocurrencies have had, major losses. So the maximum loss, for example, you could have had with Bitcoin since 2020 is over 75%. And the bubble size is the stability of the token. So how stable is it? Measuring like 100% stability would mean there's absolutely no volatility, so no monthly change in the token. This table shows like the detailed numbers that were used to create this chart, profitability, stability, security. In the second quarter, Neco went through the $4 million market cap. So this is also, a good sign. But this chart also shows our potential. We believe that we can be one of the major cryptocurrencies in the next few years. So this is the potential market cap and potential market that is accessible to us. here are the charts of the major currencies that we used, for example, the Neco, but also in comparison to euro, gold, and the other cryptocurrencies. So you see our chart is quite different to the rest, simply because we've had this stable quarterly growth, never had any loss, no ups and downs. Whereas in most cryptocurrencies follow a very similar pattern. You look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, Binance. In the last quarter, the crypto market started to stabilize and recover. The only exception is Binance. They had to deal with regulatory issues in the United States. That's why the token lost quite a lot of value. That's another reason why it's really important to have like stable regulatory framework in place, because otherwise things like Binance can happen where they're doing services and later they're being sued by the regulators for breaking some frameworks. So this is the key. This is why regulation, in my opinion, is a very important part of a stable market and a stable industry and a good basis, a solid basis for a cryptocurrency. I don't want to go into too much details about the other performance indicators such as revenue, members, money supply, and so on. You can see them here and you can read about them in more detail in our quarter report. So at the moment, we have our quarterly referendum open. It's open until tonight, July 14th. In this referendum, there's again 5 options that you can rate individually on a scale from 0 to 5. The option Collexa is based on the collective average of the last 12 months. The other options, people, planet, profit, and reserve, are options that have been adjusted to focus on certain areas. For example, people provides more universal basic income, profit, more profit, and reserve is a more conservative approach that keeps more money in our reserve. And the Neco price in this referendum ranges from €1.13 to €1.17. So a bit more conservative this time. That's an increase of 5 to 10%. All right, roadmap. So as I said, this quarter was a very important quarter in terms of the legal steps. I've already in previous conferences informed our community that we plan to get our crypto license in Estonia, which is currently happening. We're preparing to obtain the license there. So that's why also I recently moved to Estonia to be on site and to prepare for setting up the company over there. Why Estonia? I'm going to talk about this a little later on the next slide. In terms of roadmap, nothing has changed since the last quarter. We're still targeting our first ICO, the Neco ICO, next year, 2024, simply because that's when the new regulation will be in place, but also because it usually takes 12 months or so to obtain the crypto license in Estonia. So this is currently our target timeframe. And then the other ICOs, Stackchain and Collexa, will follow suit in the years after. In this current stage, the build stage, we have raised our goal. Our funding goal was 1 million. Is 1 million. Here it's 70%. We're currently already at 80%. A lot of the money funding came in the last few days in this quarter, so that's why it's not just shown in the current roadmap. It doesn't show up in the old quarter. Yeah, so, and today is the last chance to buy Neco tokens for the old price of €1.07. Tomorrow the new price will be effective and we will communicate this once the referendum has been finished. Okay, a few more topics that I would like to talk about that were not discovered or not covered in our quarterly report. The first is Estonia. Why we are looking into Estonia as the country where we will have our one of our businesses located and where we'll obtain a license. So Estonia has been the leading country in terms of e-governance. Everything is electronic there, and you can become an e-resident, meaning you have a kind of a ID like an Estonian, and you can do everything remotely, including tax declarations, opening business. So a very modern country in terms of government. That's one of the reasons why we've chosen Estonia. Then the other reason is they already have a crypto license process in place, which is very similar to the MiCA license, which will be introduced next year. There still is a bit of uncertainty in terms of how to regulate DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. So at the moment, we're still having our lawyers work out how we can have a decentralized organization using the existing legal forms that are available in Estonia. There's a bit of a limitation here because in order to apply for a crypto license, the country wants to know all the shareholders. And this is the reason why this kind of license model doesn't work very well with DAOs. We hope this will change in future. In the meantime, we will have to find some solution to solve this problem and work with the existing kind of legal limitations to build our DAO across multiple countries. Another thing that I would like to share is we have again updated our UBI rules. I just want to repeat this. So it's very important to respect these rules. We're offering UBI unconditionally to our people, so no questions asked. Everyone can apply, but we also ask you to follow our rules. Simply because UBI is there to support people, but we also need to make sure that it is not abused and that the issuing of UBI doesn't deplete the reserves and take the money away from our system that we need to operate it. So important is no indirect payment. So if you want to pay for something using your UBI, you have to pay the person or company that provided the goods and services. You cannot, pay a friend that then forwards the money to someone else. Also, no UBI forwarding. So if you receive UBI, the money is for you. It is not intended for you to send it to share your UBI with other people. If they want to apply for UBI, they can do this. It's unconditional, but please do not use your UBI to forward it to others. Use it to pay for your goods and services, like if it was your money. And if you have transactions over 500 Neco, there's a receipt required. This also applies if you have repeated transactions to the same person, like you're doing, for example, a regular yoga class with someone, and as soon as the sum is about 500 Neco, we need a receipt. So please attach that to the transaction request. Carbon-free tax. Last year we have, for 2022, we have invested nearly 100,000 Neco in carbon offsetting. So we've donated this money to our carbon offset partner for ventures, for them to plant trees currently in Indonesia and Uganda. So quite a lot that has been supported. Unfortunately, so far, only 13 members have paid their free tax. So I would really love to see more, guys, to see more people take responsibility and support our program by paying the carbon-free tax. It's not that expensive. So the average is 200 euros per year. It's a donation. You get a tax deductible donation receipt. You can deduct that from your taxes, and you get a karma token, which in the end, increases your UBI allowance. And another thing I wanted to mention, because it recently came up, karma tokens for investments and donations. So, you see, for example, for every 1,000 euro of investment, you will receive a karma token. If you invest more, let's say 5,000 euros at once, you will receive 5 karma tokens, but they will be distributed month by month. So you don't receive 5 karma tokens at the same day. It will be the first karma token in this month, and then every other month there will be an addition. This happens automatically by the system, so you don't have to worry. It will just add up, add up, add up. And the same applies to donations. So for every 100 Neco, you receive a karma token. If you make a donation of, let's say, 200 or more, then you receive 2 karma tokens, but they don't come at once. They will come month by month. All right. So this was the quarterly update from my side. And I would now stop my presentation and give everyone the opportunity to ask questions if there are any.
Oh, can I go for a question?
Yes.
I was thinking about this special moment when we really go live. When did you say might that happen?
So currently, you mean the ICO, Neco ICO is scheduled for 2024. It's probably going to be end of 2024. We are applying for the Estonian license first, which already exists. So we are sure we don't have to wait. This usually takes 12 months on average. So starting now, you can imagine, the earliest would be the 3rd quarter of 2024. But we also have to keep in mind there's the MiCA license coming, an additional license, European license, which will be effective 2025 in January, so 18 months from now. It was recently published, and there's another 18 months until it comes into effect. Estonia hasn't responded yet to how long it will take them to implement, because it's a European regulatory framework, and then every nation has to kind of update the laws and the regulations to make this happen, and every country can have some slight changes. So currently we're looking at 2024, 3rd quarter, 4th quarter. It can also be 1st quarter of 2025, but yeah, still at least a year from now.
And now then my question for the dummies among us, what does the ICO imply? Does it imply that then big investors can join in? Does it mean that the UBI becomes more universal and you can pay at more places, maybe with the UBI? What does it imply that the ICO?
So currently we're in private sales, means the Neco token is not available to the public. It's only by invite, and currently limited to 500 active members. And ICO means it's a public offer, so it will be publicly available. Anyone can buy. We will start doing marketing. We haven't done marketing yet. It also means we will have the necessary infrastructure in place, like the Neco app and the final version of Section. So things will be ready. Right now it's a prototype. So we will get out of the prototype stage into the final app stage. And then things will be much easier because you can invite anyone, we can do marketing, and we can go public. Right. So I expect this ICO to, first of all, bring in a lot of money. So our goal is at least 10 million. I think that's a goal that's not too difficult to achieve. So because large investors come in, we can do marketing. We can, we have the legal basis to expand and to make this token public to everyone. And this will probably lead to a strong increase in the reserves and also the price going up faster. So it will start the first growth phase. And then, as you know, when you look at the roadmap, we have 3 ICOs planned. The next one will be StackChain. And so we will issue the StackChain token. Currently, it's not available. We haven't sold StackChain tokens. StackChain is a platform like Ethereum that allows other companies to run their tokens on this platform. It's carbon neutral. It is a high level of security and highly performant. So we want to offer this as an additional service in the market, a utility token. That's another ICO and another way how we want to increase the amount of reserves in our system, so to expand the growth. So that will accelerate the growth. And then the third one, Collexa, similar approach. It's a collective intelligence. So people can buy a token to use Collexa, for example, in your company, or politicians or political parties can use it as a system for serving, or as a system to access the wisdom of the crowd. Another token. This token will bring, once public, it will bring in money to increase the reserve and to help us expand even further. But for every ICO, you have to understand there's a we have to get every token, a license for every token. The most challenging is Neco, because it's a asset reference token, so that requires the most sophisticated setup, company setup, and legal setup. The other two, StackChain and Collexa, are utility tokens. They should be much easier to get a license.
Okay, but that doesn't mean that then you can buy Neco on like cryptocurrency platforms, because it will still not be traded, right? Still like.
Yeah. So we are not gonna list Neco on any other exchange, simply because we have a different approach to pricing. So the Neco token the price is determined by Collexa collectively, not by demand and supply on the crypto exchanges. So with Neco, we provide the full offering. There's no other exchange. The exchange is our reserve. So it's already part of our organization. You don't need a separate wallet. It's the Neco app. So there's just less middlemen. If you look at the additional white paper of Satoshi that was published in 2008, which was the basis for Bitcoin, he was speaking of a peer-to-peer currency, a way to do peer-to-peer transactions. But if you look at what Bitcoin is today, it's not peer-to-peer at all. In order to send money, you usually have even more intermediaries. You need a wallet, you need an exchange, and you need miners. So even more players are involved that usually want part of the action, so a certain transaction fee and so on, so make it more expensive. And there's also a risk, as you've seen recently, with exchanges crashing, not taking, not ensuring that the money from the investors is in safe hands. So we decided to integrate everything into our organization, so handle everything on our own. So we won't list the Neco token on an exchange. We don't need it. It's an internal exchange. Our exchange doesn't charge. It's a free, so that's no transaction fees. There is no mining involved, less energy consumption. And that means also that we control collectively. We are in charge of the price. So right now, there are no plans to list Neco on an exchange. It will be done through our exchange. So people need to register with us, and with the registration, you get everything you need. You can you get the app, with which is your wallet, where you can store the money, or you do it online, and you can simply sell and buy Neco tokens through our reserve. There's also a big difference to other tokens, like most cryptocurrencies, for example, Bitcoin. When you on exchanges, what happens is you have to find someone to buy your token, right? If you want to sell your Bitcoins, you have to find someone to buy it. And this is causing sometimes liquidity issues, as we've seen last year, even with large exchanges like as Binance. And in our system, this is not the case, because the Neco reserve always buys and sells Neco tokens back to you. So you don't need to worry about liquidity issues. It's all part of the reserve. And on the other side, we can implement certain security rules, like the minimum reserve rate, for example, is a certain security that prevents crashes, as we've seen last year in the market. So when, like, for example, a panic happens, we close the reserve at 10%. And that means this price remains stable. People cannot take more money out. It's actually a protection mechanism for all investors to prevent a bank run. And this is something that is not available with normal exchanges. They don't have these, security mechanisms in place. That's why, I feel that this is a much more secure approach to have everything controlled in an organization. Very good question.
Thank you. One more.
One more.
The audience so thick at the moment.
Right.
I have one more question. There was the idea of a customer protection mechanism in UBI, but also Neco purchases, and I just wanted to know the current status of that.
Yeah. Another thing that is planned. I don't know if it will be available with the ICO, but what we aim to do is providing a mechanism that if you, for example, buy something using Neco, and it turns out the product is defect or it didn't get delivered, that you can get your money back. So a system similar to Amazon and eBay, who are platforms that provide this kind of customer protection. We would like to do the same. From a legal perspective, it requires the people to agree to these policies. So that means you can sign up for this customer protection, and then we will provide it for you. Money can be sent back. This is the plan. I don't know if it will be available for the ICO, but it's definitely something that we want to integrate. The really positive side of Neco is that we know all the identity of all the people involved, so it's much more secure as a system to prevent fraud, because we know who the other side is, and we want to offer a process for dispute resolution, so that our platform can also be used to, if you have a complaint against something, then you can raise this complaint with that other person, and we have a support team who can negotiate or mediate this conflict, and then decide in the end, if you get your money back or not. All right. Cool. If there are no more questions, then I would like to thank everyone for attending our conference today. Wish you an amazing week and end of the week. And you will hear from us tomorrow, latest, about the result of the Collexa referendum and and the new price and the new budgets for this quarter. Okay, bye-bye.